Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Moving Forward podcast. My name is Rabi, and I'm here with Andy Lamrock. Hello, Andy.
How you doing, Rabi? What's this? Week 17, I believe.
Yes, sir. Yes, it is. And today we have a very exciting topic, kind of complementary to our previous episodes. Today we're talking about Wi-Fi 6, the latest generation of Wi-Fi. And with plenty of routers and clients already available with chips using the 802.11ax certification, which is Wi-Fi 6, Wi-Fi 6 is beginning its rollout. It will become part of the official IEEE specification in September 2020. But why should anyone care really? So Wi-Fi 6, which is the consumer-friendly term for it, the specification is 802.11ax, it isn't designed to really boost download speeds significantly, although it is going to. The new features will really shine as device count in an area increases. So what does that mean? Let's have a look at one of the greatest updates coming with Wi-Fi 6, the ability to serve 8 simultaneous users in downlink and uplink. And again, what does that mean? Well, let's take an example. Say you and I are at a house, there's 8 smartphones connected to the Wi-Fi. If we're using the old Wi-Fi standards, the router will have to serve these endpoints one by one. And that maybe works for us because the internet is really quick at the moment, but it's really inefficient, and we can really see the issue when we're going into public places. Say you're in a conference and you just want to check Facebook during the break, and for some reason it's not loading. That's the inefficiency of the old Wi-Fi. Now, with that example, I believe we can see the benefit of Wi-Fi 6. There's so many other features that are great with it, but especially with the increasing number of endpoints in our homes, not to mention IoT devices, I believe this is the main future that we're all looking forward to. So, Andy, have you had a chance to experience Wi-Fi 6 yet? And how important does it seem to you in comparison to technologies such as 5G?
No, haven't experienced it, but I've read a lot about it.
Hmm.
And look, it's pretty complex, to be quite honest. I think there is 50 updates on the previous version
Hmm.
of Wi-Fi. So Wi-Fi 5, that being. So that's a significant step change. And what's really kind of cool, they've borrowed some structural technology from mobile networks, which is
Yeah.
created this situation where you can now get many more users into a Wi-Fi cell uh, to all experience an ultra high definition experience together. They've done that by broadening the spectrum
Hmm. Yeah.
as part of is one element, but also too you've got this ability to offload between 5G and Wi-Fi 6. So you're going to create this real seamless, ultra high speed, ultra low latency
Yeah.
experience in and around the home, out when you're mobile, and in public spaces as well. So I think they're very complementary and really exciting from that standpoint.
And it's very helpful, especially that you mentioned the spectrum, because we know a lot of people that live in apartment buildings, and interference is a real issue sometimes. The 5 gigahertz have helped with that, definitely, with more bands there, and less overlapping bands. But they're also introducing a 1 gigahertz and a 6 gigahertz spectrum. And I'm pretty sure the more options you have to use, people in apartment buildings can figure out, or in areas that are more crowded with Wi-Fi networks can figure out what's best for them to minimize the amount of interference they have. But it seems like this is going to be very monumental for IoT, especially for industries. So say if you're in a factory and you need a lot of IoT devices that are telling you like, hey, I don't need maintenance, I'm good. Hey, I need maintenance here, something's wrong. That stuff, if it's connected to the old Wi-Fi, it's an issue in two ways. First of all, the endpoints or the IoT endpoints need to be on all the time, just trying to communicate with the router, and the router has to communicate with maybe hundreds of endpoints at that point. And if you're doing it one by one, it's really inefficient. How important do you see this, especially in industries?
Look, I think it's critical. We're already seeing some great user cases for private 5G in industry and manufacturing in particular,
Hmm.
being able to use 5G to have robotics and machines respond almost instantly, with less than 10 milliseconds worth of delay time.
Hmm.
I think this Wi-Fi 6 is another example of how you could achieve that. Um, I know that it's not going to have the same throughput and latency as the millimeter wave spectrum of 5G,
Uh-huh.
but it will complement other 5G services in terms of that. So we are still talking, um, high density. Uh, High
Hmm.
density architecture that supports multiple machines. So we're going really from um, low latency, low powered type IoT applications now to high powered, high data volume requirements.
Hmm.
And so I think Wi-Fi 6 is really going to accelerate that space. And when we get to that um, high density uh, large data volume processing situation,
Hmm.
we end up moving to what I call, high fidelity when it comes to data and data sets. So the ability then to drive at the edge decisioning is also accelerated. So I think there's lots of applications, particularly autonomous vehicles or anything's connected to public infrastructure, is really going to accelerate in space.
And really, the future that we're looking for is when you're outside, you're moving around, you have 5G, you're guaranteed very fast, very reliable network, and you go home and you're not really met with the old Wi-Fi where, if you have so many devices on the network, you're going to have issues. No, you're met with Wi-Fi 6 and improved, faster Wi-Fi. My understanding is that the new data rates can go up to 9,600 megabits per second, theoretically, of
Mm-hmm.
course, which is an improvement to the previous generation Wi-Fi 5 Wave 2, which was about 7,000 megabits per second. So the speed has improved as well. Let's not. It's important to mention that, but it's also important to mention that with Wi-Fi 5 Wave 2, it was able to service up to four devices on downlink. So four devices can be you can send information to four endpoints at the same time, but it was only one device uplink. And that's an
Yeah.
issue because it's not only the endpoint or the router and the endpoint receiving information, it's actually the router sending information and the endpoint sending information to request the data. So it's very important for these routers to be able to receive a lot of requests from these devices, which is very important for IoT as well. But another feature that I think we should really focus on is the fact that the new Wi-Fi standard will allow IoT devices to go into sleep in the sense that the IoT devices do not need to continuously be knocking on the router's door for information like, do you have an update for me? Do you have an update for me? With Wi-Fi 6, they can schedule a time when the Wi-Fi 6 will wake the IoT device up and serve it the updates that it needs. I can't imagine how not only power efficient that is, but I, I think there might be some use for security as well in this sense.
Oh yeah, and you're filtering out a lot of noise and overhead on the network at the same time, which is how you're getting a lot of the efficiency, right?
Absolutely.
And we apply that back in the home, right? In the home, we're seeing this proliferation of devices. Mum and dad and the kids are at home at school, so we're talking 3, 4 people are jumping on these networks and they're video conferencing and everything. And what we know about that is that's two-way, it's synchronous, right? We
Hmm.
need bandwidth in both directions in a synchronous manner. So this is certainly going to help in that space. And I think I read a report around this where it's estimated by next year, 2021, we're expecting to see more than 50 devices in the average home connecting to a router.
Wow.
Um, so that's huge. And so I mean, if I think about my home,
Hmm.
I've got my wife on her laptop at work. I've got my daughter on her laptop. I've got mine on a laptop. Then we've all got phones, so that's six. Then
Hmm.
I've got an iPad, and then my wife's got an iPad. Okay, so that's 8 devices. Before we even start thinking about the fact that we've got lights now, we've got the LED Wi-Fi enabled lights that are now connecting to it as well. So you start to do. We've
Hmm.
probably got 20 devices in our house already.
Yeah. Yeah, and
Um,
not to mention the Google Assistant, Alexa, whatever it is that you like, that's definitely going to be
so
there.
true. Yep, absolutely, absolutely. So, look, exciting times.
Hmm.
Everything's getting connected. Wi-Fi 6 and 5G are really taking us there quickly.
Very exciting indeed. And that was episode 17 of the Moving Forward podcast. Thank you for listening. Until next time.
Thanks, Ravi. Don't forget to smile, everyone.